Hi, welcome to another Business Talk Show brought to you by the Sharonville Chamber of Commerce. Once again, my name is Dave Sperry, local business owner, very active member of the Chamber. I own Speed Pro Imaging on East Kemper Road. We do large format graphics, and so I've already got my plug in. So we'll get started with our first two very special guests who are here to explain to us the exciting and ever-changing world of healthcare. First of all, Jamie Charlton, who is one of the owners of Saxon Financial, and with him one of his top lieutenants, Frank Lopez, who actually is a very, very, very good advisor when it comes to the healthcare industry, because we actually do business with Frank, and he's saved us some money. So, gentlemen, welcome. We're all anxious to hear what all the answers are, and Jamie, once again, we want to thank you for being a board member of the Chamber. So, well, let's get right into it. Has anybody been able to log into the exchange yet online?
Well, not as of today. I mean, me personally, I try every morning, really.
Okay.
This morning was kind of the same thing. They're still working out the glitches, and although you hear on the news that people are calling in and going through the paper apps over the phone, there has been no real number as to how many people have been successful in signing up just yet.
So what does the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare, change how, when, and where we buy health insurance? I guess we could spend how long just on that one question?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough time in the, in the program to get through that one. Very briefly, essentially it does away with underwriting. That's the major advantage for those in the past who have not been able to get health care, especially in the state of Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, the surrounding areas here in the tri-state. The carriers have been able to underwrite pre-existing conditions in the past and either elevate premiums quite a bit and or deny people on the individual market. So it's an opportunity for those folks to get on the marketplace, aka the exchanges, and get plans that are deemed affordable and meet a certain level of coverage as far as benefits are concerned. That's good for those folks. It's going to be harmful for some of those folks who are young and healthy because we're going to go to a community rating standard. Because the carriers are no longer allowed to underwrite for pre-existing conditions, you're going to see a blending of rates. So those folks who may have been older or unhealthy, had a higher rate, are going to come down, not as much, but they're going to come down, and you're going to have the young and healthy folks move up the scale to offset that balance. So that's where you're going to see a lot of the rates shake out. A lot of people are going to grumble when they see that, because much to some people's surprise, it's not going to be free.
Yeah, well, absolutely not. Of course, we have to get on the exchange to find out, right?
Yes, that's correct.
You mentioned it, you alluded to it in more detail. What exactly is community rating?
Well, what that is, Dave, is they take a blended rate of just the community you live in, the age group, gender, and like I said, the area, zip code area. And really probably the only other thing is whether you smoke or not. And they take all this and they blend everybody's age and health conditions and all that stuff, and they come up with a rate that's kind of an average or a median in the area, where before it was based on a certain smaller group of health and risk and everything like that. It's going to be a lot different here. And I think where people are going to really see what I think people need to understand too is that this was built for uninsured people that were unable to get insurance. That's really what it was meant for. Not really people that were fortunate enough to have it provided through their businesses. So that's why I think that there'll be a little sticker shock for those folks that think that it's going to be better off going.
So the only health consideration is whether you smoke or not. It's got nothing to do
That's really the big difference
with weight
maker.
or any other obvious potential health risk factors.
Right, and because of the fact that they're taking in all illnesses and really they're assuming what risks are out there. And you can imagine how many people, had cancer in their past or even heart conditions in their past and have not been able to access health care. Now they're jumping in the pool. So you can imagine how they're hedging their bets and saying this is what they think it should be, which is, unfortunately going to be a lot higher than what it is today.
If someone does not have health insurance after the Affordable Health Care Act goes into effect, how much will they have to pay? How much will they have to pay in penalties?
Well, this year it's an elevated schedule, but this year it's $95 or 1% of their household income. So again, a lot of people are saying $95. That's a low ball, but it's going to be 1% of household income, which again is not that significant. We're going to see there's going to be a lot of young kids that don't want to pay that that rate, because you're going to take some kids, 21, 22-year-old male is paying $95 a month right now. That's hard enough to get that guy to pay that rate. And you're going to tell them they're going to pay $300, $400, $500 a month, or $95 in 1 year. Show me where the turnoff is for that kid, because if anything happens, they just walk on the plan next year,
Right.
because there's no
Yeah,
reason
if they
for
get
them not
sick,
to.
they just sign up for the plan.
Correct.
The next,
Next open enrollment.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit like, if in the world of auto insurance, if I got in a wreck, then I call and the insurance company and say, now I want insurance.
Well, yes and no. I mean, there's a little bit of a caveat there. Obviously, the emergency rooms have to give free treatment, so
Right.
the kid can go to the emergency room. But if all he has to do is wait to the next open enrollment, there is an open enrollment period to get onto the exchange. So you can't just come and go at your whim. Now, there's qualifying events, divorce, death, et cetera, that'll allow you on the day of. But if it's just, hey, I just want a better plan or I want a cheaper rate, you do have to wait for an open enrollment period.
And we've heard a little bit about subsidies. So how does an individual go around, apply for a subsidy?
Well, how that works is how it's supposed to work is once these exchanges in the marketplace sites get open and people start to access. That's kind of what's been the delay is how are they calculating that, or do they have the right calculator out there? And it's based off of the modified adjusted gross income. So folks are going to take their household income and put it in this box, and it's supposed to calculate what it is. I think that word subsidy can be misleading, and tax credits can be misleading because you have to qualify. So it's between 138% to 400% of the poverty level. Am I correct? And what I've found is if you're anywhere between that 138 to 250, you're going to get assistance with the subsidy, and that's where they're not giving you a check or anything like that. It's really where they're calculating it. They're giving you, here's the amount that you can afford, and we'll pay the insurance company directly. It's not coming to you. But when you get into the tax credit, you're really paying that upfront money and then getting the credit back on your taxes at the end of the year. And I think that's something that...
So how is it paid? Is it paid, does the government pay the insurance company, or is it all done via tax credits?
Not all, yeah, just like you had mentioned, the subsidy is paid to the insurance company if it's a subsidy.
Okay.
But if it's a tax credit, which is different, the qualifying standards are different, the tax credit comes off of your tax.
Okay, yeah, so it's a credit right against your tax bill.
Correct.
Not a deduction, it's a tax credit.
Correct.
So how do small businesses qualify for tax credits in 2014, for those of us that are small businesses?
And that's another wonderful idiosyncrasy, shall we say. First of all, the tax credit for a small business owner is only good for 2 years. So it goes away after 2015. And in order to qualify for the full tax credit, which is 50% of premium, a small business owner has to have under 10 employees, and they have to average $25,000 or less in wages a year. And the employer has to pay 50% of the premium. So if you have those three criteria met, you'll qualify for the full 50% discount. Now, after 10 employees, you can go all the way up to 25 employees, but that 50% credit starts to phase down.
So you're not exactly incentivized to pay your employees well.
That's correct. You're not incentivized to pay them well, and you're incentivized to pay a big chunk of the premium still. And the only way you can get that credit is if you participate in the shop. And what the shop is that's a small business exchange. So you have an individual exchange where you as an individual can get your own HAMP plan. Then you have a shop where you, Dave, as a business owner, can say, you know what, I really like the exchange idea. I'm going to put my entire group into an exchange. And you manage it like you do today, but inside the exchange, in theory, each one of your employees will have a choice of plans. Well, that part's not set up yet, so the government's delayed that for another year. So if you go into the shop today, you'd only have one choice of plans to offer your folks. Next year, when they get this thing up and running, you'll be able to let me and Frank go get whatever plan we want if we work for you.
Well, right now, he is my
That's right.
marketplace.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what we're finding with probably 90% of our business owners. They're better off to renew early this year on 12/1 than they are to go into the exchange or to take community rating.
So the one big question that keeps out there is, are employers required to offer health insurance to their employees?
That's a great question because we get that question every day. Yes and no. The deciding factor, well, really the answer is no. But in 2015, again, because the administration rolled back the pay or play penalty for large groups. So there's, for 14, no employers mandated or penalized if they don't offer coverage. In 15, if you're a group of 50 and under, or 15 under, there's no penalty at all. If your 50 employees are over, then you have to pay a fine if you don't offer benefits. If you offer benefits, they need to meet 2 criteria. They need to be affordable, and they need to be quality. If they don't meet those criteria, then you're eligible for a fine by the government. So really, anybody under 50 employees has nothing to worry about. Now, the catch to the large groups, though, is part-timers count against you. It's another wonderful feature. Part-timers can count against you
So
as
the
a business.
part-timer's one, just as a full-time employee would be one.
Well, no, what you do is you add all your part-timers together, and
Okay.
then they can become equivalent full-timers.
Okay.
So if you have two part-timers that equal 30 hours,
Okay,
they're a
that's-
full-time.
okay.
But the best thing is, they get no benefit out of this. So they could push you as a business owner over the threshold to make you offer benefits to your full-timers, but they get no benefit at all from it. So I figure that catch up.
I'll call you and ask you the question.
That's right. That's what we're here.
Are there any buyer beware types of tips you can offer the public that will be helpful? And I already understand there's a few scams going on out there, because where there is confusion, there is opportunity for those types of folks.
Absolutely.
I would honestly say the biggest one that we've come across, I think it's if your individuals are going out there, if you have employees that are just going out there and doing it on their own, and they're going out there and you hear them coming back saying, man, it is cheaper, or the cost is great. The first thing I would ask is, like, are you sure that it's your doctors in that network? Word's been out that Anthem's been pretty aggressive with theirs, where the fact that they only contract with TriHealth doctors. So there's really only 2 hospitals that your people can go to that are here in Ohio. So if you go on the exchange and you get an Anthem product, you're very limited to the providers that you can go to. You can't go out of state unless it's an emergency. So those are the things to really be aware about, because that's the only way that they're going to keep the cost down, is shrinking that network. And all of them are doing it. So, but I don't hear it highly promoted. I don't hear it as a caution to people that are going out there on their own without any guidance. So,
And the other thing, too, going back to that question is, the groups that have over 50 employees, this year, those employees are going to be able to get on the exchange. They'll may be qualified for a subsidy because, again, there's no penalty
Right.
at that point. But what happens in 15, that employer is then going to face a penalty. So if that employer comes back in 14, they don't have a qualified plan, then in 15, they have to get qualified because the government has that penalty. You may have that employee who's getting used to having that subsidy or that tax credit now have that yanked away. Because if you're an employer of 50 plus and you offered the qualified plan, your employees are no longer eligible for a subsidy on the exchange because you're offering the plans that are compliant. So that's another thing, is this year you can have folks out there taking advantage of it, but then they may have it yanked away from them in 15.
Who's keeping track of all of this?
Well, that's why it got rolled back for another year. A lot of
Yeah.
businesses said, whoa, because the reporting on this is ridiculous if you're a business over 50.
Well, I've already gotten involved in
Yes.
some things I've had to provide my employees and all
Right.
that. I mean,
And that's why they rolled it back to 15 for larger businesses, because the reporting, they can't keep up with the reporting right now. And even that's what's holding the exchange up right now, and it's what's causing the government shutdown. The Republicans are dragging their feet on the ACA.
right.
You can argue for ideology, but most of it is because there's no checks and balance right now. Bill Gates, in theory, could go on the exchange right now and get a subsidized health care plan because the federal data hub that's supposed to do the checks and balances isn't set up yet. So the exchanges right now that are, as Frank alluded to earlier, that were set up, designed to help those who really need it, okay, is not in place. So anybody can go out there and tell them what they get. And you may get audited, you may get caught, but the honor system really is what's dragging a lot of this down, because the checks and balances that were supposed to be part of this are not in place.
Well, we appreciate both of you coming in with your black suits today to explain all this. If someone wants to get a hold of you at Saxon Financial, how would they go about doing that to answer any and all their questions?
Right?
I would say go to our website. I think that's a great website, wealth of information at saxonconsultants.com. And you can click on any of our bios and email us directly, or there's a phone number there as well. So,
Well,
I think
we
that's the
appreciate
best
you
way.
both of you coming in and sharing all that with us, and we appreciate all you tuning into another Business Talk brought to you by the Sharonville Chamber of Commerce, and we will be right back.